Well, good morning. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, good morning.
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you guys doing?
We're good, thank
Very
you.
good.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Nice. It's a nice Tuesday here in Victoria. So thanks for joining us this morning. So this is again, it's the first time we've done this. It's a spotlight on the professional in Victoria. So we just have a couple of questions we'd like to ask you about yourself and what you do and the firm, and hopefully people will find this informative and understand better why we select certain appraisers and what the benefit is of working with a seasoned professional in Victoria. So just to get rolling, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Like how long have you been in Victoria, and what do you enjoy most about living in the city?
Well, I was raised in Victoria, so I've been here since I was born. I went away for a little bit, but you always kind of make your way back to Victoria and see the rest of the world, and you're like, no, this is a pretty great place to live. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I've been here. I did my BCom here at UVic, and yeah, I've been here my whole life.
yeah, okay. That's not too many. Most people are imports
Yes.
to Victoria, so it's nice to find one that was born and raised here, and it's obviously a great place to live and work and raise a family as well. So with that, so tell us a little bit about your background. Sort of how did you get into doing appraisals?
Yeah, appraisal is a funny thing. I would say that you ask 9 out of 10 appraisers, and they got into appraisal because they knew another real estate appraiser, which is the story for me. I started working at another office with Russ Reynolds and Mei Phung when I was still in high school, actually, just doing some work, nights and weekends, filing, research, that kind of stuff. And then I went off to do my BCom, but I kept in touch with Mei Fang, and I reached out to her after I graduated to see what she was up to. And she was starting Phung Horwood, and she asked me if I wanted to join, and I did. Yeah, the intention was to start with a year and see where that went, see if I
Oh,
liked
okay.
it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Hey, Jessica.
funny how things kind of progress, and when you start with a certain industry and you kind of start there and you think, oh, I'll try it out for a while, and the next thing you know, it's many years later, and you're still in it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Hey,
And
Jessica. Frank, sorry. I just want to ask a question. What kind of credentials do you need to have as an appraiser?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you need an undergraduate degree. It can be in anything. But if you have a Bachelor of Commerce degree or a Bachelor of Real Estate, the post-grad program that you have to do afterwards is a lot shorter.
Hmm.
So Sauder School of Business through UBC offers a fast track program if you have a BCom. And so it's 2 years roughly, online courses and mentorship under an accredited ACI, and then you can get your accreditation after that. So if you don't have your BCom, if you have another undergrad
Hmm.
degree, it's 16 courses instead of 6. So it usually takes about
Oh,
double the
wow.
time. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to, let's say, complete the AACI?
Yeah, so I started with Phung Horwood in January 2023. I started the coursework then, and I was fully designated in October 2016. So about 3.5 years, which is about the standard time frame. You work full time and you kind of take a course a semester, sometimes two, and then you have to do a demo report, which takes 8 months, and then
Oh,
just the
wow.
timing with the interviews and the final exam takes a little bit of time as well.
I see.
Yeah, but it's nice
Like,
because you get to work full time while you're doing
hmm.
it. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
so so you've been with Fung Horwood for a little while now. So what
10
do you
years, yeah.
enjoy? Time flies, right? So
Hmm.
what do you enjoy most about working at Fung Horwood?
Well, I can honestly say that our team is really like a family. It started with just May. Richard, myself, and then another team member, Marcello. So it was just the four of us working out of a tiny little office. And we've slowly grown. Now we have myself and another ACI comrade and 3 more support staff that are candidates working towards their ACI. So we've really grown over the years organically and with the right kind of fit of people. So we really keep that family feel, which is really
And
nice.
yeah, it's a very nice,
Mhm.
and they're a very nice environment to work in when you have kind of everybody kind of gets along and you have the same kind of goals in mind. Like, and now how many offices do you have in Victoria?
We just have the one. Yeah, just have the one.
Oh, okay. And is there a certain part of the island that you service? Like obviously Victoria, but would you go kind of North Island? Like how far up the island would you?
Yeah, we service the South Island mainly. I would say Greater Victoria and the CRG take up 80–90% of our work. We do have clients who have holdings across the island. So that is usually the cases that bring us north of Duncan. But I do work in Nanaimo, Parksville. There's occasions I'll go up to Courtney, that kind of thing. But for the most part, we're the South Island.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of area, a lot of business here just on the South Island. So I guess you could staying here is is probably beneficial.
And you know, our appraisals are as good as the information that we put in them. And if you're not working in a market, even if it is only 2 hours north of you, there's a lot of different factors and a lot of different parameters. And so if you're not active in it often, it can just make the work a little bit harder.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense, knowing kind of your backyard, so to speak, and it's where you're most comfortable and can relay the information back that's needed. But yeah, that's great. Now, as far as your firm, the Phung Horwood, like what makes you stand out? What makes the firm stand out to other competitors in the industry or here in Victoria?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of comes back to we have a team that really gets along. We all really like what we do. I think that shows in our work. We really love real estate and all aspects of it. I think that, every firm has its strengths. I think that all the firms in Victoria are really good. And I think that something that maybe we stand out for is our relationship building. We have a really strong client list. We take a lot of pride in the relationships that we build. And I think that we have a collaborative approach with our clients as well. And I think we have a really strong reputation for putting out good, thorough work. We'll really put an emphasis on all of our due diligence and making sure the information that we have in the report is right, current, and makes sense.
And now, when you do get a new client, like how do you sell yourself and the firm to a potential new client?
Yeah, I think that it kind of comes back to saying like we have a collaborative approach with our clients. And so I think that we spend a little bit more time onboarding a new client in terms of making sure that we understand what they're looking for, what their expectations are, really understanding what the purpose of the appraisal is for, and making sure that it's a really good fit. I mean, ultimately, I hate a scenario where the client's unhappy. Sometimes it's unavoidable when you're dealing with values and, expectations can be really different. So I think that when we do have a new client reach out to us, I personally spend a little bit more time figuring out what their expectations are before I accept a job.
When it comes to, I guess, certain expectations or, our clients looking for, they're always looking for value and appraisal. does it always come down to cost, or is it more, or are there other factors that maybe most clients look for when they're looking for a new appraiser?
It really depends. I think that's why it's really important to figure out what your client needs beforehand, because I do think that we sometimes, I mean, there's been occasions where we've been told that our appraisals are too thorough. Like there's a lot of information in there, and sometimes people don't need the full meal deal, kind of, so to speak, right? And so I think that it just needs to be understood what we provide, what service we provide. We provide a really thorough, in-depth service that maybe some people may not need, but with that comes, I think, a slightly higher cost. So sometimes it does come down to cost. And we know the time and effort that we put into our appraisals, and so we definitely stand quite firm on our fees. And we have a client list that is okay with that and understands that. So definitely fees is something that comes up as a deciding factor for people. And Victoria is small, but it's big enough where we're all the appraisal firms are busy.
Yeah, no, that's
Go
good.
where they want.
Yeah, no, it's good to ask the right questions and make sure it is a good fit for for a client, and hopefully you obviously want to retain them long term. So making sure that that everything aligns I think is very important in that process. And then with that, so there's you have probably external clients, and I'm sure you have kind of lenders who are clients. Do you how do you get on these approved lists for lenders? I know a lot of lenders want to deal with professionals that are on their approved list for certain reports that they do. So I would assume that is probably in line with the appraisal industry as well.
Yeah, it's lenders are definitely lenders and brokers are a huge source of our work, absolutely. So it's really important to build strong relationships with them. In terms of the approved lists, I think the larger institutions are starting to move away from that officially, especially I would say for a smaller market like Victoria. It's very difficult to get onto the approved appraisers lists officially, but sometimes if we're not officially on there, they just need to ask for a special list. We are on all the lenders approved lists, I believe, and all the credit unions and secondary financers as well. It just takes time, basically. They need to see your work, the quality of work, and we're also really happy to have conversations with them to explain our appraisals, which happen sometimes. And I think we put a lot of effort into making sure our reports have everything that the lender or the underwriter needs within the report. So there's not as much back and forth.
So Jessica, like in this case, does that mean like previously you guys have dealt with lenders directly, and I guess through like frequent like submissions of these appraisal reports that they have become like I guess accepting of these reports and eventually nominate you guys on their approved list? Or is there like a specific process that lenders use to choose their appraisers?
There's really not a specific process. I remember getting into this and we were working on getting onto a couple of the major banks approved lists, and we couldn't figure out who was controlling the lists, and they weren't reviewing the lists for a decade. So it really has just been over time having our appraisals being read over and over again, and specific lenders kind of championing for us to head office and getting our name kind of through the door and put on these lists, simply from just providing quality work over time and them seeing our name over and over again.
I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not a clear-cut process.
No, yeah, I know I can.
Right?
Yeah, no, I can. echo those sentiments there, because it's working in the past with the lender. It is difficult for a firm to get added to the list. It is a bit of a process, so it's good that you're on there. So like with that, I guess from a client's perspective, some clients want to go out and just go get an appraiser for a project or for a specific building they own. So what would be an advantage for a client to use, say, your firm that's on multiple lenders approved lists in Victoria versus not using an appraiser that is necessarily not on somebody's approved list?
Yeah, I think that the major benefit is just in terms of the versatility of our appraisal. You can shop around in terms of shopping around with lending institutions with our appraisals. There's a lot less back and forth. Some lenders just prefer other appraisal firms, and so when they see that name, I don't want to say ask less questions, but they just feel more comfortable and they feel a higher level of security, I think, overall with certain firms. And so if you choose an appraisal firm that is approved and has a good reputation and has a good relationship with multiple lending institutions, then it just provides a greater versatility for the appraisal. And I have had clients that have come to me and said, hey, I got this appraisal a month ago from another firm and this lender won't accept it. I have to get it redone. Like, that happens. So if you can stop that from happening, you don't waste any money or time if you start with an appraisal firm that's approved.
Right. So do you guys do peer reviews a lot?
We don't. No, we don't do too many peer reviews. No.
Yeah, I know a lot of firms, I don't think they like to necessarily do them. So I guess maybe for people that are listening that maybe don't understand like what a peer review is, could you maybe kind of give us a quick overview of like what is a peer review?
Yeah, so I mean, you can be asked, it's like an official peer review is asked through the AIC, so our Appraisal Institute of Canada, and there's peer reviewers that are registered and they can be asked through the AIC because of an issue with an appraisal, because a client has complained. But I do get the occasional request from a client specifically that says, hey, I got this appraisal, it doesn't really make sense to me, can you look at it? And so in that instance, I don't do an official peer review by any means, but I can certainly do my own analysis and then they can compare the two on their own. But officially, it's a very different process through the Appraisal Institute of Canada.
Okay, no, that's good to know for people that need a peer review and the lender typically requests one. I would assume is that the case? Yeah,
it's the client. So whoever the client was in the first place, if it was a lender, if it was a property owner, whoever is disgruntled at that point.
Yeah, no, that's good. And now with Phung Horwood, as far as areas of expertise, do you have a certain area that you guys are more comfortable in or have more experience in than others?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Victoria, so we're a smaller market. So in order to stay busy, you definitely have to have a broad range of services in terms of the asset types that you service. We do residential work. We do construction financing for spec builds. We do construction financing for massive multi-phase residential developments with townhouses and apartments. We do some institutional work. I would say the majority of the work that I do is transactional. So for financing and construction financing, I really like the development side of things. But you know, it's all over the map, but I would say the majority of our work is transactional.
Right. And do you guys do anything outside of, I guess, what's deemed like commercial construction? Do you guys do residential work as well?
Yeah, we do residential work. As you're probably aware, there's kind of two different avenues. There's the retail financing work that needs to go through the AMCs. So we don't do that work. That's a whole nother animal over there that we don't take part in. But we do residential for, you know, separation agreements, estate, probate, property transfer tax has been a huge one recently with the assessments, appeals, that kind of work. We have Richard in our office. He does a little bit more complicated stuff, working with expropriation, working with some of the First Nations, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody was wanting to buy just a single family home, that's not necessarily what you guys would do on the residential side. It's not your area of expertise, so to speak, or
no,
or
I mean,
I
just did a couple residentials where it was private, so they were determining the sale price for a private transaction. But no, our appraisals, we don't do retail financing. That has to be ordered directly through the lender. Like RDC or TDE or so it's something that we don't do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Good to know for people are listening and wanting to know kind of what the Phung Horwood's area of expertise is, and they could kind of use you when they need it. And so when borrowers come to you, do you have any advice for borrowers when they order an appraisal?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just to have all your information ready to go. As I said before, I'm happy to have a conversation with you at length before any, discussion of fees to determine what you need, what you would need the appraisal for, even how the appraisal process works. There's a lot of people that call us and they've never gotten an appraisal before. So happy to have that conversation with you as well about what it entails, what information I would need, and setting it up properly. So it's just really about having your information ready, and then also make sure that you have a really clear understanding of the scope of work. So you know exactly what your appraiser's going to do for you, and what the results, like what the deliverables are, so that there's no kind of question at the end of it, like, oh, I thought you were going to provide this value, not that value, that kind of thing. So it's just really important to make sure that you guys go through the scope and have it in writing too, letters of engagement, so it outlines the fee, the timeline, the scope of work, the purpose of the appraisal, and who the client is. That's something that's really important to make sure that there's no questions at the end of the road.
And for I guess clients out there that are looking at ordering a commercial appraisal, maybe haven't ordered one in the past, or have done, haven't done too many of them or ordered too many of them, what would be like a typical timeline to complete a commercial appraisal, say from the time that you engage with the client and to the moment that the report is completed? Is there can you kind of give us a rough timeline on what that process is and how long it would take?
Yeah, I mean, it can range. It depends on how busy we are. It can fluctuate. It depends on the complexity of the job. If it's for financing for a strata unit versus a 10-year multi-phase residential development, they're going to have different timelines. I would say standard is 2 to 3 weeks. And that also is prefaced with, we need to make sure that we have all the information that we need in order to complete the appraisal. So, 2 to 3 weeks from the time that we get all the information from the client that we need. Sometimes it's shorter, and then sometimes it's longer.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Good for people to know kind of what the process is and how long it takes. I think sometimes people don't understand the process and are looking for a fast turnaround, and obviously a fast turnaround in commercial financing or commercial appraisals is not I guess a reasonable expectation. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I mean, we do get the calls on occasion. Can I get it in a couple days? And I say very nicely no. I mean, we'll always do what we can. We try and work with you as much as we possibly can, but typically it's mainly the fact that we just have a list of work that we have to get through before we can get to the next project. So we just need to respect everybody that's already in line, kind of thing. But absolutely, appraisals and all consultants, I think, people, unless they know exactly for sure that they need it, they don't want to spend the money until they know for sure. And sometimes that's usually what gets the timelines shortened a little bit. So yeah, it's always a good idea to reach out to an appraiser, even if you're not totally sure yet, if you need one, and just let them know that you're thinking about it, have that conversation, get a good idea of where their levels are at in terms of work and turnaround time. It never hurts.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. It's always good to ask enough questions and just get a better understanding. So that's great.
Well, and
Jessica.
I also want to say too, I think it's really important to work with or I think that's like an asset to working with a broker, is that brokers have relationships with appraisers, and it's nothing for them to reach out and say, hey, I've got this potential file coming down the line, where are you at? And that's kind of one of the things that you guys bring as well. Yeah,
we can definitely kind of move things along, or push things along, ask the right questions, and when it comes to working with a broker. So glad you see the benefit in that as well. And then I guess last question we have for you today is do you tell us about some unique files that you've worked on in the past, or are currently working on a unique file right now?
Yeah, I don't have anything really exciting right now, but last year I was involved in doing some appraisals for the EcoGift program, which is a federal program where people can donate their land, obviously in exchange for some sort of credit, which is usually tax credit. So it was really cool to be a part of donating big tracts of land to be preserved in Victoria. And yeah, I think that was probably the most unique thing I worked on last year, a couple of those projects. And
are you still working with the EcoGift program?
Yeah, so the property owner themselves reach out. And so I've done a couple of them now for last year. So hopefully there's other people out there that are thinking about donating their land. It's a really great program. I think it's great for our city and our environment. And I'd love to be a part of it.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, no, if I guess a good segue, if anybody again is listening in here, is getting this portion of the of the video and is kind of hung on to the the bitter end, if if they want to get ask you any questions about that program, or if somebody does want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can call our office. Our office is 250-590-8040. We're here Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Or you can send me an email directly. It's jessica@phunghorwood.com.
Great, excellent. Yeah. Again, thanks again, Jessica. Thanks for your time today. We appreciate you answering our questions, informing the the listeners here on kind of what you do, what your expertise is, why they should be using using Phung, Horwood, and yourself. And again, if anybody has any questions, please reach out to Jessica. Will reattach information on the video, how they can best get a hold of you. And phone is probably the best way to get a hold of you, and just kind of start the process that way, I would assume.
Yeah, phone or email. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thanks again for your time today. Thanks everybody for joining in. If you have any questions, again, please reach out to Jessica, or if you have any questions directly, we're always available here at Designer Capital.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Okay,
Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jessica.